Hi, this is Isaac from Knock Loose. You're listening to Matt and Pete on Macho Grande. Hi guys, welcome to episode 195 of Macho Grande. I'm Pete.
And I'm Matt.
If the last episode was the first time you'd ever heard us, today's episode is a bit more back to normal. We're going to play a load of new bands. We're going to have a bit of a chat about the news and a bit of a review of recent albums. We thought we'd just do a bit of a catch-up because obviously it's been quite a few weeks since we did a normal show.
Yes, and if this is your first time listening to us, good luck.
We kicked off with a band called Pound. Now, that track, all the track titles on the album are just a series of dots and dashes and X's. And, I thought that sounded really, really cool. I'd never heard of them before.
Cool, so they're not dog related?
They're not dog related, no.
Okay. Good. That's relief. I couldn't quite tell because this week Pete has sent me a delightful and random Chuck Norris Top Dog picture.
I might have to make that my film of the weekend. I've never seen it.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah. So yeah, coming up on today's show, we're going to play Dens. We're going to do a Mystery Box, Halcyon Days, and then in a minute we're going to have a chat about a band called Revaira. So, and I got to go to a gig. I went to see Black Map shortly before Download.
Oh, cool.
All the way in Huddersfield, which I've never been to Huddersfield before.
Okay.
It's okay. I don't think I need to go back. But the gig, the gig was really good.
Yeah, that's a random date or venue to sort of play, is it not?
They played some weird towns. Like half the towns on the list I'd not heard of before.
Right.
So it was an odd assortment of shows, but they had some good ones nestled in there, and they did a date on the Camden Rocks thing as well.
Oh,
so,
yes.
Yeah, I think this might have been the first date of the tour. It was a great little venue, Parish it was called, which was like a kind of nice big kind of, well, I don't know if it's always a rock bar, but certainly that evening they had a DJ that was just doing alternative music, and then there's like a back function room, and it was a cool little room, nice sort of size. It was good. They absolutely smashed it. I mean, they're really, really good live, and it's kind of testament that I was having a chat with Mark beforehand, and he was having a chat about the new album and the previous album, and he was asking about, which tracks do you dig, and I told him my two favourite tracks off the new album and the first album, and they didn't play any of those live.
Oh, really?
He said, actually, funnily enough, none of those are currently in the set, and yet the set was just non-stop banger after banger after banger, and there's huge riffs, and he's such a good vocalist as well, Ben. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Really, really cool.
Awesome.
Have you managed to get to anything?
No, I haven't been to anything for a wee while.
So yeah, normally we'd do listening pile, but because we've not chatted about anything new in ages, we thought we'd just kind of go through a slightly sort of more in-depth roundup a bit later on in the show.
Yep.
So Revaira, not sure how you pronounce that. Revaira, I think. Their debut album, In Between, is out via Redfield Records on the 17th of August. These guys are from Hamburg. This track is called Recovery.
Okay, so next up, we'll just cover a bit of the news. Obviously, the biggest thing that's happened this week would be the passing of Vinnie Paul Abbott from Hell Yeah and most famously Pantera and Damage Plan.
Damage Plan, yeah. I mean, absolutely gutted. I mean, obviously we both love Pantera. Pantera, one of my absolute biggest influences when I was a teenager, and learning drums, Vinny was right up there. So just gutted. They're doing a public celebration of his life as we record tomorrow, Sunday 1st of July, at the Bomb Factory in Dallas. So yeah, I mean, it's quite a shock to the whole community.
Yeah, again, just sort of like sudden and unexpected from early reports that I have heard so far. I mean, unless something else has come out, is that it was a potential heart attack and he's died in his sleep. To anyone who has certainly watched any of the Pantera documentaries or tour videos that they've made, those guys really did push it full force. So, the sort of stresses that they all put their bodies through, it is kind of pretty crazy. Just sort of surprising and unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, he is known for his sort of fun lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, who knows how long or to what extent all that kind of carried on to. But, the outpouring of love for that guy is just incredible. I mean, everyone just seems to be just praising him so much. I mean, certainly we were lucky enough to interview him. I think I might have interviewed him 3 times, or every time was with... the first time was Damage Plan, and then the second 2 times was Hell Yeah. And considering who he is, I was just the nicest dude. Like, super friendly, very happy to just take questions and just chat about shit.
Yeah, and again, just sort of... It's so weird to just for the Pantera legacy now for the 2 Abbott brothers to be the 2 that didn't sort of like live longer lives. It's just really strange.
Yeah, Phil and Rex have both been. I mean, Rex put out a comment saying he'll say something further down the line. He's still kind of processing. Phil just simply put up an image of a burning candle. So, but those 2 haven't played together for a long time. So maybe it'd be quite nice further down the line to see them hopefully maybe get back together and do something.
Yeah, because he was
in Down for obviously
a long time.
Core 10 have split up. I can't remember if we mentioned that. I know. I don't think we did, because obviously I did some news before we did the download stuff. So unfortunately, Core 10 have decided to disband pending further notice. They've said it was a fun year and we've all parted ways as friends. Thank you again for your support during our run. Please continue to follow all the members in their new endeavours. So, but the thing is, that sounds like the whole band's just completely gone. That's not quite true, because David plus the bassist and both guitarists are continuing. And they've recorded, like, the album's done.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't the last we spoke of them, the album was due for release?
Yeah, well, they were doing all their teasers. So what they've said is they're still planning on releasing the album with the debut album. And it is still David, bass player, and both guitarists. So literally, the only thing that's actually happened is they've got rid of that old keyboard dude and the singer.
Right.
Or 2 singers. Did they have 2
singers?
Didn't
they have 2 singers? Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
So I wonder whether there's some kind of legality in there, and they're going to have to reform possibly under a different name, but with the music, who knows? But yeah, all that excitement for it to just build to this.
But so wait, because on there, if you go on their Facebook page, the 2 singers and the keyboardist are listed as Core 10, and the others aren't.
Oh, so I wonder if they're keeping the Core 10 name.
And it's the rest of the band
and the other guys
left.
But they're gonna keep the album.
Yeah, and the name.
But potentially now we have 2 incredible albums to look forward to, because an album that's penned by just those 2 singers, man, that's
yes,
can't wait.
Yes.
So, yeah, done. Converge dropped a surprise EP, Beautiful Ruin, which is 4 tracks long, just kind of out the blue. Although, say out the blue, didn't they say around the time of the album release that they had all these B-sides and stuff that would see the light of day? So I think this has been kind of floating around that this was going to happen.
There was talk that there I think I did read that there were like off recordings or stuff that didn't make the album.
Because I mean, obviously they used Eve, which I think still to this day is one of the best songs that wasn't on the album as a B-side. So yeah, that's out now. You can also check that out on Spotify.
Yep, I got a copy of it last night, and I haven't had a proper chance to listen to it yet, but going to get on that later today.
There's I've not watched this yet, but there's a really, really cool, geeky-looking documentary, 4-part video on YouTube, which is all about Metallica's stage design for the Worldwide tour. Now, I mean, I love just kind of geeky documentaries, and this looks very full on. So yeah, that looks worth a watch. Yeah, all the lighting and sort of stage design and stuff. So I'm looking forward to watching that.
Yeah, there was the bizarre stuff that's sort of happening with Maynard James Keenan, which I don't understand or know much about, but it seems that there was has been an alleged rape allegation against him from 2000. Yeah, and he's saying it's a despicable false claim and that he will be fighting this sort of allegation publicly, or but it just very strange. I don't really know much more about it.
I hadn't read too much about that, so I'm hoping the whole thing is just a false allegation.
Yeah, which again he sort of like says about how this is does damage to the Me Too movement, and it's a shame for those who perpetuate this destructive clickbait.
Yeah,
but yeah. We'll see what happens with that. I mean, again, it just sort of like flashed up yesterday. I was like, what? So, yeah.
Corey Taylor says that the new Slipknot album will be Iowa levels of heavy. Now, what do you think? What do you think to that?
I believe that he has said something similar to every album recorded since album 4.
See, for me, that's all on him. Like some of the music on the last album was really, really heavy, but if he decides to do his Stone Sour vocals over it, well, there you go.
Well, no, quite. I mean, the thing is, he hasn't done, like, I see sort of Slipknot in 2 different chapters. There's like the first 3 albums and then everything since.
Live as well, with Energy. They're still incredible live, but it's a very different experience.
Yeah, well, certainly with his voice, it's like there's a complete sort of tonal change in his cleans, and then his growls and screams are completely different. Pre-Volume 3 and post Volume 3.
What would you actually want from a new Slipknot album? Because for them saying Iowa levels of heavy doesn't actually excite me that much.
No, I would. Well, especially whenever you look at how many has it been? Is it the last 3 albums? So we're going into. Let me just bring it all up, because off the top of my head, my memory is absolutely terrible at this time of morning. So All Hope Is Gone, The Grey Chapter. So they're the 2 albums since. Right, yeah, so I personally would like a mixture of to be honest, sort of like, I'd kind of like a mix of like Iowa and Subliminal Verses. I think for me, Subliminal Verses was their second game changer, and the first game changer being the debut album. I don't think that the debut album rappy bits that they kind of have, I think that's slightly dated in that they got it right at the right time. 1999, first album. That's kind of where it needs to stay.
I would like a little bit of those choruses, though. I'm with you on Subliminal. I'd be very happy if it has the kind of weight and beefiness of Subliminal Verses, but then just with some of those kind of debut album choruses, I would like that.
Yeah, and again, just in the sort of like, I don't think that they have a third game changer in them.
No, and I mean, I don't mind them dabbling with like the electronica stuff that they did on the last album, but it needs to be good. Yes, that's the trouble, is that they dabbled and it wasn't really that great.
Yeah, and it's kind of the mix of like, there were moments of Slipknot in that album, The Grey Chapter, but again, maybe in the context that it was written, because it was post Paul Gray, that, you know, that kind of dictated the direction of certain songs, and obviously the departure of Joey and the introduction of two new members. There was a very sort of like, you know, in my mind, I imagine a kind of sort of Saint Anger documentary, some kind of monster levels of kind of discord in the background and the writing process. And I'm not saying that it's as chaotic as some kind of monsters, the way that sort of depicts a band in post the sort of like trauma of band members leaving and dealing with addictions and things. But I think this next album, now that the band have been together, this new lineup of the band have been together for, well, what's going on and off now for 4 years, because I mean they've been inactive now for the last 6 to 8 months, maybe a bit longer.
Yeah, they did all the Day of the Gisano stuff, didn't they, last? And live
all the
DVD.
big sort of arena tours of the UK and whatnot, they were all last year, finishing towards the end of last year. So they have been on and off. So, but again, I mean, maybe it is a case of like, now that they've got the new members, now that they've got a sort of new a vibe of how everyone's going to play together or write together. I say that even though, like, you know, All Hope Is Gone was kind of all over the place, and I definitely don't want that.
All Hope Is Gone it doesn't hold up at all.
No, even the sort of better songs on it aren't brilliant. Certainly, like, do not enjoy that album live.
No.
In the same way that I don't really like a lot of the Grey Chapter live. It's kind of just like, even the better songs on it, I'm kind of like, yeah. So yeah, I think it just needs to be good. And like you say, yeah, to get some of the choruses from the debut album would be incredible.
Yeah.
And then just some of the sort of like the maturity from Volume 3. I'm not so concerned about the heaviness of Iowa. I mean, again, it's just sort of like...
That doesn't solve everything. Do you know what I mean? Just going heavier and faster doesn't...
Exactly.
It's not going to do it.
Whereas the maturity from Volume 3 was the perfect balance of the sort of mediocre albums that came next and the balance of the energy that came from before. So yeah, that's kind of what I'd like to see, but we'll see.
Okay.
Again, like I said, just going back to the statement, it does kind of feel like he has said similar things from the last couple of albums of like, oh yeah, we're channeling Iowa in this. It's like, yeah, okay.
Anything else newsworthy that you want to talk about?
I was just scrolling through. So Coheed and Cambria have released, well, kind of like the opening 2 tracks, I assume, of the album, which has now got a title, The Unheavenly Creatures. There's now a music video out, in fact, for the new single, which is really cool. I'm very, very, very excited for that album. Oh yeah, but some new Bury Tomorrow videos have come out since they've played. And also going back, because we haven't had a chance to speak about it, As I Lay Dying.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. No, I've not heard the song yet.
You've not heard the song?
No, I know, I'm behind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, is it good?
I really like it.
Yeah,
I mean,
good. Because I've seen a few people seem to be a bit weird about this, about him. They're like, a lot of people don't seem to know how to take it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he has done his time. So.
Yes. Well, this is the thing. It's like, it's one of those like, well...
Because has the whole band come back? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, right, cool.
The lineup that the band were before the incident are the same band that have now come back. So there was obviously a lot of like controversy whenever they posted a kind of teaser, sort of 10-15 second teaser video for the new single. Didn't show any faces, but it did look certainly like I could tell that if not all the members were back, it was at least 4 of them in the video, because you could just sort of tell by sort of blurred tattoo, the way the tattoos were on people's arms and whatnot. You could tell, but then the video has subsequently come out where it's the full 5. They're all there. But then, you know, there was sort of like Jamie Jasta had a lot to say on his podcast,
and the band have issued like a statement about why they're doing it, haven't they? Yeah, I've not read that yet.
It's a pretty sort of like open-hearted and kind of uncomfortable to watch roundtable where they're all sort of talking about, you know, how much they hated each other and how much they hated Tim, and, you know, and just the sort of healing process. And, you know, I kind of sort of see it as, yes, he's done his time. He's, you know, you can either forgive him for that or not forgive him, but like, he's done his time. He's paid the price, doing something very stupid. No one got hurt.
Yeah.
I don't really understand or know the full complexities of all the charges, because it seems such a weird kind of like thing of like someone at a gym sort of said about helping him out organizing something, and then like the police went undercover and stinged him on catching him. I mean, it all seems very strange anyway. But regardless, I think it's a bold statement, the fact that it's the full band have come back. I mean, like, if he had come back without the band members with a new lineup, then again, I can see that adding to the sort of fuel of like, yeah, but really, yeah, you know, it would add to the sort of weirdness of it all. But I think the fact that it's the band that have come back and the track is brilliant.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to hearing that.
It's just like, oh, I've forgotten how good As I Lay Down they are.
They were one of the better, absolutely at the top, you know, metalcore bands of the time.
Exactly, and this comes back with that level of like, no, we are still. I mean, no one writes riffs like us. No one has blast beats like us. I think it's a phenomenal song, and to the point where I don't care about. I just want some good music. I mean, this is an easier thing for me to either ignore or just accept as, well, he's done his time, compared to, say, other people who have been imprisoned over the last few years. If they came back in bands, like, that would be weird. For example, like Lost Prophets or something, that would be very weird. But yeah, so I think it's well worth checking out. And, you know, if you wanted to watch the video, I mean, certainly the online debate at the time was interesting. You had people like Dino Cazares. Is that his surname?
Yeah.
Sort of like commenting, or, you know, against sort of Jasta's sort of statements that he was putting up. It's just like, you know, what's he meant to do? You know, can the guy not have a career? I mean, what are people meant to do that have gone to prison when they get out?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
are they meant to just sort of pay for that for the rest of their lives? Or do we have a system where we send people to jail for crimes that they commit, and then once they've paid their dues, they can get on with their lives? I mean...
And, you know, at the end of the day, if it makes you uncomfortable and you don't want to support it, just don't listen to it. Yeah, that's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and that's what it really comes down to. I mean, like, you know, certainly in America, they've got a legal system. They expect you. What do you want people to do whenever they get out of jail? Are they not allowed to have a career again?
Yeah, or a life.
Yeah, I mean, like, the guy has been playing in bands since he was like in his teens. What's he meant to do? I mean, he's gone back to what he does. So yeah, it was just an interesting kind of debate that was going on, but it sort of it definitely kicked up a lot of interesting arguments from both sides. And then the only other thing was, and I've lost it. I did have it.
Did you ever have it?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, some would say definitely never. It was the Marilyn Manson cover for Cry Little Sister. Have you heard this?
No.
So he's released a new single, and the video came online yesterday for a brand new single. I don't know if it's going to be for a cover album or if it is something off a new album, but apparently he did play it at Download. I wasn't there, so I wouldn't know. But Cry Little Sister from the Lost Boys soundtrack.
Ah, right, okay. Yeah, no, well, I didn't hear that at Download, but yeah.
He has done a cover of that.
Although I probably wouldn't know it if I heard it.
Oh, you should know. Everyone knows that Cry Little Sister.
Yeah, maybe if I heard it.
Yeah, if you Google the original and then listen to the Marilyn Manson version.
I never actually watched The Lost Boys that much. When I was quite late to that, and I think I only saw it. I think I've only ever seen it maybe twice.
Good God, where did you spend your youth?
Just one of those, they just passed me by.
Fair enough. And that was all I had. I just thought it was funny and worth checking out because it's
I will check it out.
As soon as I heard it, I was like, "Oh man, I forgot how good that original version of the song is."
So is his version good? Shall I get that for the club?
It's okay.
All right, fine, okay.
I prefer the original
because he does do covers well. When you look back, he's always had a long history of doing decent covers.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, the original is cheesy and 80s.
Yeah.
And it is of a very particular thing because it ties in with that film as well.
Yeah.
So for him to do a cover version of it, it's very much him just doing a cover version of that song, but in his way. And so it's fine, but at the same time, it's just like, oh god, the original's amazing.
Cool. Right.
So, yeah.
Are you familiar with a band called Halcyon Days?
No.
Because I've deliberately put this in because it says stylistically not too far away from Architects, Under Oath, and Counterparts. So I thought,
okay.
Yeah.
So, but it has nothing to do with the Orbital song Halcyon Days?
I wouldn't know.
Okie dokie.
I always got confused between the Orb and Orbital when I was younger.
Yeah, I still do.
Okay. So these guys are from Norway. It says melodic metal, hardcore band, not swaying stylistically from blah, 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 what I just said. They formed in 2012. They've got a couple of EPs out, and their debut album is called Elevate, which came out in 2014. So this is brand new, and this is called July. So I'm going to be interested to see what you think about this, Matt.
Okie dokie.
So there you go. What do you think?
I really like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to get right into that album. The album's called Rain-Soaked Pavements and Fresh Cut Grass. I don't know what label it's out on because it's listed as unknown genre here.
Is it? Okay. I don't know why I didn't write that down because I do know that.
Okay. So they're from Oslo, Norway?
Indie Recordings, it's out. It came out on the 15th of June.
Okay. I'm really digging that. The cover, it reminds me of sort of like early 2000s sort of like post-hardcore bands. They have that kind of like minimal, but at the same time sort of the layout it's like a photograph with a big negative space.
Yeah, it's a nice cover. I like that.
Yeah, like I said, it reminds me of a lot of sort of like post-hardcore bands.
I'm a massive sucker for anytime you have some like puddles in the street with like neon reflections. That's always a win for me.
Okay, I'll bear that in mind.
Okay. Oh yeah, can we have a neon Macho Grande? Not like horrifically Parkway Drive kind of style, but more Blade Runner.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make sure Core 10 do that on their new album as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm going to get stuck right into that because I think that...
imagine if you get to do the artwork for Core 10. I'd approach them now, mate. Get in there quick.
Moving on. So, as you mentioned at the top of the show, we haven't done a sort of listening pile.
No.
Over the last episode, and it has been a little while since we talked about what we've been listening to. Do you want to kick off? What's your album roundup?
All right. I tell you what, I'll run through mine, and then you chip in with any that if you've listened to the same one, and then you run through yours, and I'll do the same.
Okay.
So probably the biggest one, and the one that I was really excited for, is Vane. Their album's called Error Zone. Now, have you heard this?
I have not.
Okay, it is. I really like it. I mean, it's getting a lot of attention because it's got that. Yeah, we were just talking about the debut Slipknot album. It does feel very much like this kind of young, kind of punk attitude to releasing an album that's modern metal. That they've said they're not influenced by new metal, but it has definitely got shades of new metal in there. There's a lot of speed. There's a lot of just kind of rough and fast and heavy riffs that kind of a bit early Vision of Disorder in places as well, I think. It is really good, and I'm digging it a lot. It's just that kind of scatterbrain, heavy approach that I love. And tons, I mean, I wouldn't say it's perfect, and I'm still getting to know it, but tons of potential for the future as well, especially with the singer. I think he's got a lot of room to grow. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you need to get on that. It is really good.
Okay.
So yeah, Vane, Vein, and it's called Error Zone. Nine Inch Nails dropped their Bad Witch. I don't. Is it actually? I was going to say it's not classed as an album, is it? It's like a longer EP.
Yeah. I suppose I don't really know anymore because, like, certainly back in the day, this would have been considered an EP, whereas now I suppose it could be a mini album.
I think they're describing it as an album, but I know what you mean. It sounds really good. It starts off well. I don't know it quite well enough yet to fully review, but I've been digging it. It's good.
Yeah, I've only done sort of one complete listen. I've listened to the first track a few times. Yeah, on first listen, it's not grabbing me the same way the last EP did. I thought that was incredible. This seems a bit slightly more electronic than the last EP. But I'm not giving up on it. It's like I said, it's only been one proper complete listen.
Okay. Code Orange, The Hurt Will Go On.
You just got that.
Which it's not very long. It's just a few tracks, but it's again the standard is right up there. You got Corey Taylor guesting on it as well.
There's only three of them are like remix tracks anyway.
Are they? I thought two of them were totally brand new.
Yeah, two of them are brand new.
Right.
3 remix tracks.
Oh right, okay.
But yeah, so I mean, that's more of a classic sense of a single EP or like a double A side single with B sides. Remix B-sides of the classic days, which you kids don't get anymore.
Yeah. We
used to get that all the time.
Oh, and then the full remix albums. Remember the White Zombie and Fear Factory full
oh, yeah.
They haven't stood up.
No.
Zeal & Ardor is probably one of the biggies, which is Stranger Fruit. Really, really excited for this. And I'm still getting to know it. I am impressed that because obviously one of the routes I kind of expected him to go down was for it to be not as heavy. And it's still really full on when it goes heavy. which I'm quite surprised by, because I really did think, of all the directions he'd probably now go with this, it'd probably be a little bit more accessible. At the moment, it's not quite hitting me like the first album did, but I am enjoying it.
No, and it's almost like he's, he has refined it and also given it more purpose, because, certainly when you look at the history of the first album, it did sort of come out of, it was just a random suggestion people were giving him.
Yeah.
And it was like half as long, the album.
The trouble is all those, I know a lot of people will knock the first album, but I genuinely love all those little ditties. They really got stuck in my head, and I still listen to it quite often. And also the chants, I don't think have grabbed me in the same way.
Exactly. This seems to be more of this is the more considered debut album compared to the first, because the first one feels like it was, not to sort of knock the legitimacy of any of those songs, but this seems to be the sort of first album proper, whereas the first one was kind of the experiment, which has led to the first album. So, it's cool that, people have got behind it to the point where he can have this first album. But again, like you, I've not had a chance to properly sort of, let all the songs sink in, because...
I'm very much still getting to know it.
Yeah, same. Like I said, the length of this is very different to the first album as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, most of these I'm still just kind of getting to know. Especially this one as well, Yob. They've released Our Raw Heart. Now, Yob are this kind of, very kind of Neurosis-like heavy band, very sludgy and doomy in places. And their album in 2014 just kind of came out of the blue for me, and I put it at number 5 in Clearing the Path to Ascend, it's called, and I put it at number 5 in my top 10 albums. And I didn't really know Yob before then. And this album, again, it sounds really, really good, but I've unfortunately kind of had it on in the background, so I'm yet to really kind of capture that weight of it and have it nice and loud. But that sounds really good. I keep listening to the new Ghost album. Now, it's weird, because obviously neither of us are particularly big Ghost fans. Have you listened to the new album?
I have done a sort of surface listen, really. I've never really been a fan of Ghost, and the stuff that I do like, it isn't sort of worth me sort of buying the albums of, if that makes any sense. It's just sort of a passing interest.
I won't lie, there's 3 tracks that are proper just won't get out of my head, and I keep finding myself, when you just put something on Spotify, I keep putting Ghost on Spotify and listening to them. I'm really enjoying not the whole album at all,
no,
but the stuff that stuck with me I really, really like, and it's so wonderfully 80s in places as well.
Yeah, I've sort of read quite a few reviews on it, and it does seem to be the consensus that there's a lot of sort of sameness and a lot of sort of several sort of directionless tracks on the album.
Yeah, there's a couple that are just outright awful, I would say. But
yeah.
And then I've saved the best for last. The new Night Versus album from the Gallery of Sleep is just it's just ridiculous. And he is one of the world's best drummers at the moment as well. I was very worried when they said that they were going to get rid of the singer, because I absolutely adored and still do that last album, and partly because of how good the vocals are. But this album's stunning. My only gripe, and this was my concern, I said this 4 months ago when they teased the Copper Wasp, was it 3 tracks?
Yeah.
My only worry was that this is incredible. I hope these aren't the main songs on the album. And the album's got tons of other good stuff, but sure enough, those 3 tracks are 1, 3 and 5, or 1, 3 and 4, something like that. I was just a bit but I already know this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
can't knock it for that, because they're brilliant, but yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, it certainly plays into it all being an arranged piece of music, the way that those 3 were sort of the first segment of the full album, if that makes any sense. Because they've slotted in a second track into those 3, but at the same time, that's kind of the opening movement of the full album.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've only done a full listen. I only got this late last night. I've only done a sort of quick listen through, and it's just sort of for me, it was kind of oh, cool, I'm glad those tracks are on there, because it can just be it just sort of helps ease into listening, getting straight into the album, because it is now just a case of like you're kind of just getting straight into that EP again.
Yeah, and I mean, much as I love it, I hope the door also isn't closed to them having vocals, purely because of the strength of that second album. So who knows?
I mean, it'd be interesting to see how they tour. I mean, I imagine it will just be this album.
I think so on this run, yeah.
I
mean, I understand it. I mean, when you listen to this album and the amount of stuff that's going on, I can see why they've chosen to make this instrumental. But
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's it for me.
Night Versus for me, only just got hold of it, but that's going to be on my list today. The bizarrely Pantera live album that came out like 2 days before Vinnie Paul died came out, live at Dynamo Open Air Festival from 1998.
Yeah, now I didn't really know anything about this. Haven't they? There's been a couple, hasn't there, from Dynamo?
Yeah, they sort of seem to be doing these sort of like Dynamo concerts, releasing back catalogues of live performances, and this sort of just came out. Again, it's not really an album worth releasing, massively sort of like, shouting about, but it was just interesting that it came out shortly before Vinny died, and I did have, so that's been on my listening pile just because it came out, and I would have normally just done the sort of one listen through because it's a live album just to hear how the performances are, but I did have it on a couple of times because it's fresh in my playlist, and obviously the news over the week. So as a live album,
I just wish it was a Blu-ray. I'd be well excited if it was a DVD.
Yeah.
But,
the new Bullet for My Valentine, Gravity, their 6th album. I've done a couple of listens on it. It's okay.
Right.
It's better than. Is it better than the last?
Fever?
No, Fever. The last. Oh, sorry, Venom. 5. I think I prefer Venom, but again, the low point in the band is easily still Temper, the 4th album.
Is that you made me review one and I just hated it. I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah, Temper is such a terribly boring and generically boring album. Yeah, it's fine. Again, it's that sort of like, it's a shame that they missed their chance because they came out with such a dud album. Like they're sort of like scrambling to get that back. I think the last album was a good attempt. I think this is solid. It's just not groundbreaking. It's not going to change people's opinions of them. Now they've sort of they've hit a trivium level where it's just they've plateaued.
Has it got anything huge that I can play at the club that's going to work? Or
yeah, it does have a couple of sort of bigger singles on it.
Okay,
like Over It is one of the bigger singles, but yeah, I mean, there's quite a few on it that are sort of like dance floor fillers, I can imagine, because they do, when they riff, they do riff well. I haven't had a chance to sort of like hear anything more of the new Frontier album, but they did release a single this week.
Is there 2 out now, or just
yes.
one? Yeah, I've not heard either of these yet.
Well, the new one, Unloved. Oh, sorry, the album's called Unloved. The new one called Glitcher is just insane.
Cool. You see they've announced a couple of UK dates as well.
Yes, and like for anyone who doesn't know, like we sort of like discovered this band early last year, or maybe late 2016, and they're just a wall of noise, and they're insane because the vocalist is American, but the rest of the band is from around Europe / Scotland.
I was going to say, I thought some of them were Scottish. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I knew the guitarist, which again I didn't realize when I first found them. But yeah, they've got a second album coming out now, and
cool.
It's just insane noise. Following on from what was it? Yes, no, and I'm trying to look through. Oh, yes, that was the one I was going to talk about. There hasn't really been much else because I've kind of just been going back to the.
There's one or two I was going to ask you about. Oh, I've just gone off my screen now. Was it Dream on Dreamer released an album?
Yeah, I was just like to say Dream on Dream.
In Heart's Wake as well. I've not heard either of those.
The In Heart's Wake is just a re-release of Ark, with a bonus instrumental of the album.
Oh, okay.
So it's nothing special. I mean, there's a lot of sort of singles I've been listening to, like New Death of Vala, New Black Peaks, As I Lay, Coheed, The Dark Sentencer was the single that came out. But yeah, Dream on Dreamer, it comes and goes. It's pretty good. Again, like, I think they're just a solid sort of metalcore. I think this one seems a bit more like clean vocal focused, but at the same time that doesn't sort of detract from the fact the riffs are still pretty heavy and crushing, and it's just a good solid, sort of 6.5 out of 10. Okay. But I quite like it. I quite like it. No, the one curveball was the Alien Weaponry album. Have you listened to this?
No.
Right, so Alien
I love the name though.
They are a New Zealand metal band. The frontman of the band is like 16, and I think you'll love it because it's sort of kind of grabbed me. It's like it's very Maori influenced in a similar way to, say, Roots by Sepultura.
All right, you're not going to go down the Poya route then?
No. So you need to check it out to understand. So it has lots of Maori vocals, but then over these really sort of nu metal and thrash metal sort of music parts, and it goes to it. And again, the band are all very young, but there's something really vibrant about it, where it's just like there's so much energy here. It's kind of interesting, and it kind of works, and it's just sort of like worth checking out. So the album's called TU, and the band's Alien Weaponry, and I think you'd really like it.
Fire me that over. That sounds good.
Yeah, it really sort of like was a bizarre kind of like recommendation from my mum's friend who lives out in New Zealand, because they seem to be obviously sort of making waves in New Zealand. It was just sent over. It's like, you got to check these guys out. I think, Matt will really like them because, it's metal and Matt likes metal. But then I have sort of listened to it after reading up on the band, thinking, all right, yeah, this sounds like it's going to be terrible. And actually, it's kind of really good. So I'd be interested to hear what you think, because I'm still on the fence of like, I don't know how this works, but it kind of works.
Interesting. So, yeah. Okay, yeah, cool. I'll also just give another nod to the Bad Wolves album, because I think if you do just want kind of like modern metal in the sort of 5 Finger but done well, I think that is really good. I mean, it's way better than 5 Finger Death Punch, and it's got a bunch of cool guys in it like Doc Coyle and Tommy Vexed. It's a really good album.
Yeah.
They just donated. Did you see they donated their proceeds of the zombie cover to charity?
Oh no, I didn't see that.
And
no.
It's interesting only because it was like $250,000.
Oh wow!
Like, yeah, because in the days when you think, oh, nobody's earning any money anymore, it just goes to show if you have, because that single is absolutely massive in the States.
Really?
So yeah, it really, like, over here we don't really. I'm getting requested.
The original was amazing.
Yeah, the original's an absolute belter, but their version of it is just like they've just beefed it up. There's nothing silly about it. They've just taken it heavier, and it's fairly true to the original. But I just had no idea how massive that song had gone worldwide in like all the charts and stuff. Proper like mid 2000 levels of huge. So they got, there's a picture of them, this big $250,000 check that they've donated, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
But the album, it's easy, you get something like that and then the album gets overlooked because of this one cover song. The album's really good.
Oh wow!
Just big tunes, but it's just got way more bite and edge than something like 5 Finger. So it gets a definite pass from me, in a good way. Cool. I mean.
Okay, yeah.
Would you like a mystery box?
Yeah.
Okay, here's your first choice. Songs are technical without descending into wankery, utilising backwards, nightmare logic riffs that initially separated death metal from thrash, but which many bands have now either discarded in favour of straightforward Slayerisms or pushed to an incomprehensible extreme. This band finds fertile ground in between, delivering one line after another that is somehow incredibly catchy but also unique. A degree of good taste is shown that is too rare in a genre where bands like to find what works and then double or triple down on it. Over these well-developed compositions, vocals are less growls than the shouts of a crazed demon choking on the blood of its enemies.
Right.
Okay, that's quite a long one, that.
Yeah.
There's a lot to digest there. Right.
Yeah.
Number 2, full of face-melting heaviness and a dark and evil atmosphere that offers more sickening death metal to the unsuspecting world. Playing fast, evil, and energetic songs inspired by horror shows and films, their favourite themes encompass zombies, demons, and other evil creatures, and for them, each song is executed as a short horror story accompanied by heavy music. Like most horror stories, this is not for the faint of heart. There is a fair amount of gore, death, and of course a very evil atmosphere, which is reflected in the band name as well.
Right. Okay.
So there's quite a lot of evil atmosphere in that.
I do like evil atmospheres.
And then 3, this is really short and sweet. What if Black Sabbath played Afrobeat?
Yeah.
That's it.
What if they did? What if they did?
So there are your 3 choices. So what if Black Sabbath played Afrobeat? Or you've got the evil atmosphere, or you've got the crazed demon choking on the blood of its enemies without being wankery.
Wow. In a lot of ways, the first one kind of seems kind of appropriate. You know, I do like songs without any wankery.
Me too.
What
do you think backwards Nightmare Logic riffs means?
I don't know, but it does kind of scare me.
Plus, it's that fertile ground in between, incredibly catchy but also very unique.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I am intrigued. I mean, what if Black Sabbath played Afrobeat? I mean, is that not a question we've all been asking ourselves in some respects? I'm kind of at a loss. I'm in some respects speechless. Like, wow, just that. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, let's go with the first one. But
Okay.
Yeah,
I can see people being mad at you for not choosing the Afrobeat, but I think, to be honest, given that was part of the press release, I think if you Googled that line, you could probably discover who that band is.
Okay.
Right, so you've gone for number 1, and you have chosen a band called Gravewards, and their album is called Ruinous Ensoulment. It's their debut album via Unspeakable Acts Records. That's one of the best record label titles I've ever heard. It's coming out on the 27th of July. We're going to play a track that's called Sworn in Denial, Amiga Syndrome.
Right.
So, here you go.
Okie dokie.
So there you go. That was Gravewards. That was your choice. It's pretty old school.
Yeah, digging the artwork for the album cover.
Oh, I don't know if I've looked at that.
Ruinous Ensoulment is very sort of, how would you call it? It's kind of a mix between sort of like Freddy Krueger, Dream World, and Hellraiser.
I was going to say Hellraiser with the sky in the background. Yeah.
Slash The Cube.
Well, yeah, obviously, yeah. No, I was thinking about that bit in Hellraiser where you see, you know, when you sort of see through into the other world, and it's got that.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously the giant cube in the centre of the picture. Yeah, that's
there is that. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
So you can check that out. It's at the end of July. It's called Ruinous Ensoulment.
Very good.
Right, it is ridiculously hot, and we've got the windows shut and the fans off, so I think we need to wrap this up soon.
Yes, good, because I am melting.
Yeah, it's quite something. So we're going to close out on a band called Dens with a track called Dead Rise. Really excited about this. Before we do, I just wanted to mention 2 TV/film type things. Thoroughbreds, which is this film that came out a couple of months ago about these 2 girls plotting to kill somebody. It's quite good. It's worth a watch. It's quite tense and slow. Wouldn't say it's amazing, but worth a watch.
Okay.
And Westworld Season 2, I just finished that and absolutely hated it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and bearing in mind I loved season 1, I don't think season 2 had any of the good writing, interesting plot points. It felt like an absolute mess.
Oh.
Other than one episode with Abernathy or Delos, whatever he's called, in his cell, which I loved that episode, I thought the whole season was terrible.
Wow, okay.
How did you get on with it?
I haven't watched any of it yet.
Have you not watched it? Oh, okay.
No, I preferred... I refuse to sort of follow anything.
I thought you watched one, though.
I will just... that's the thing, it's finished. I'll just sort of binge it. If I have a sort of, afternoon, I'll just sort of go, right, all in one go, and I'm not going to follow things week to week or whatever. I liked the first season. I just would happily just watch.
I just wish the first season had wrapped and just been a complete one-off, because this is True Detective levels of shit for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even watch Series 2 of True Detective, so...
You don't? Ever.
No, I just watched the first season and was just like, yep, okay.
Yeah, but that's the great thing, is because that is just its own complete thing.
Yeah.
Which Westworld isn't.
And I'm all about that at the moment as well, because I just, like I said, I have no interest in following things anymore.
Well, you should. I know I bang on about it all the time, but it's wrapped up, it's complete, there'll be no more. You should watch the 3 seasons of Leftovers, because it's incredible.
But I also hate Damon Lindelof.
Okay, right, let's not go there. Have you got any TV or film stuff you want to talk about?
No, I haven't really watched it. I mean, I watched The Snowman last night.
Oh, I downloaded that the other day. I meant to watch it.
The Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
It's pretty rubbish.
Oh, is it? Yeah, I heard bad reports, but I just liked the setting.
Yeah, the thing is, and it's based on a book that's really good. It's really weird because I'd heard a bit of the sort of problems about it when it came out, but then I just sort of had it on because I was just like, well, it's just been added to Sky, I'll just watch it.
Yeah.
Let's see how bad it really is. And it's just directionless. The whole thing gets away from the film, which is really weird because the filmmaker's really good and the cinematography is really good, the cast is really good, but it doesn't stick to the original book at all, and it all just gets, there's no sort of narrative. It's kind of just it's hard to explain without not spoiling anything, but it just sort of jumps from things. You're in the middle of sort of those classic sort of camera lingers on maybe this guy's the killer.
Oh, right, okay.
Those, and so there's lots of weird red herrings, which the book does better from all reports. It's the book is sort of it does that really deliberately, but instead of focusing on how good of a detective it is, or he is, which the book is about, it focuses on just his sort of the fact he's an alcoholic and the fact that he's sort of got a really depressing life, but then there's just sort of things that will happen where you're just surely that was meant to mean something. And because you'll hear a song which was played at the scene of one murder, and then you hear it again and another song or at another moment in the film, and you're just surely that means something. Right. why are those two songs and it's never brought up again? Oh, and then they'll do other things where it's just surely that means something. Who's this guy? Why are they introducing this as a thing?
This sounds a lot like Westworld season 2.
Yeah, it's just sort of why are they introducing this as a thing 20 minutes before the end of the film? And then it's all just it just sort of it's at the same time boring.
Oh, okay. Did you go and watch Hereditary? That's the one I want to see.
No, not yet.
Okay. Yeah.
I do want to see that, but I haven't seen it yet. And when I get a chance, I do plan on seeing, because there's some big films that have come out this week. I want to see Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, is that out? Cool.
That is out now, but also, what was the other one that came out? Well, I did want to see Sicario 2 until I heard sort of mixed things, because I did love the first one, but I'm not really interested on sort of a sort of half-arsed version.
All right, so before we close out on Dens, if you want to get in touch with us, you can leave a voicemail. We can play it on the show. You can suggest bands. You can do little album and reviews, and we can play it. It is 05603 689 842.
Yes.
Or you can drop us an email, info@machograndepodcast.co.uk.
Yeah, or you can find us on Twitter at Macho Grande Pod, or find us on Facebook, join in the conversation, tell a friend, recommend something, subscribe, give us a couple of reviews. We've seen some other cool reviews.
Oh yeah, iTunes reviews,
up on iTunes.
Yeah, that's cool.
That really helps us, our visibility on iTunes, because the more recommendations and reviews we get, the higher up on the lists we start to appear. Yeah, that's about it, really. We'll be back again soon.
Yep.
And what are we going to close out on?
We're going to close out on Dens, and it's a 4-track EP. I really like this. It's out via Face Down Records. It came out yesterday as we record this, 29th of June. It's called No Small Hope. They did have a debut album, which I need to check out, called From Small Seeds Come Giant Trees. And they're from Richmond, Vancouver. So, yeah, we're going to close out on this. This track is called Dead Rise, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Take it easy, guys.
Drift over Macho Grande?
No, I don't think I'll ever get over Macho Grande.